It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day, and again, welcome to the show. I'm Brad Miller. It is County-Wide, and we're happy to welcome back in studio a guest that we've chatted with before. Sheila Stubler is the park manager at Verde Historical Park in Camp Verde, and good day to you.
Good day.
Frothy looking today. You're in Victorian dress. We're on radio, but I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful, and that's going to play into some of the things that we'll talk about today. But Sheila, you've brought a guest with you today. Don Clark is here. Don was a Army helicopter pilot in Vietnam, and Don, we appreciate you and thank you for your service and your continued service as a member of the Federal Advisory Committee to Commemoration, and that's important for an event that is going to be happening in conjunction with Fort Verde Historical Park coming up in March. So we say, Don, a good day to you, and thank you for coming in with us as well.
Good morning.
Let's do this. I want to kind of, in our second segment, we'll focus on what Don is doing. But Sheila, the traveling wall, the Vietnam veterans, I guess, replica wall is coming to town,
Yes.
to Camp Verde in March. That's going to be exciting.
It is. It will be March 29th to April 2nd of 2023. And it's known as the AVTT, the American Veteran Traveling Tribute.
Yeah.
It is an 80% replica wall.
And it is dramatic.
It is.
For any who have not seen it. We're going to spend our second section talking with Don and Sheila about that. But first, it's holiday time, and you've got some holiday things happening. Again, you're decked out in the Victorian gear, representing what? That was at the foundation of Fort Verde, or how does that kind of coincide?
Well, so we're in the midst of celebrating our Victorian Christmas. And
there you go.
So I am wearing an 1880s commanding officer's wife attire. And so for the holidays, it was quite depressing for a lot of the soldiers because they couldn't go home.
Yeah.
So what they tried to do is save up some of their rations. And so when they had their Christmas meal, they would have enough so they could actually have a good time and celebrate. And so that's what they did. They decked out the buildings with greenery and red bows and ribbons and things like that. And sometimes they had music and did little skits. They just did things to try to make everybody have some holiday cheer.
Whatever they could kind of do.
That's correct.
Sure. Now, you didn't buy that off the rack.
No, it's something I just picked up, So.
Was this, handmade? Or
yes, one of our volunteers. She's amazing. When I first started there at Fort Verde, she said, "Park manager, you should be dressed up and wearing one of the Victorian dresses."
Yeah.
And I said, I don't have one. The next thing you know, the next time she came, she said, "Here you go, I made you one."
Wow.
so I've gotten a lot of mileage out of this dress. That's
it's
for
interesting.
Sure.
A lot of us on TV or movies will kind of see that, but to have someone come in this full apparel, it looks like it probably took you 90 minutes to get into that.
Yes, and you should have seen the looks when I went to pick up my coffee. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Using a charge card here while dressed in Victorian.
Yes.
Well, it's wonderful, and it sure adds a sense of ambiance, and I know that that's important for anybody who visits Fort Verde holiday time or any other time, getting a sense of days and eras gone by. So it all kind of feeds into that educational aspect for the experience that visitors are going to share.
Absolutely. We've had so many families that have come through. We just finished with candlelight tours this past Saturday night that were open to the public. And we do have one last chance for people to catch the candlelight tours on Saturday, December 17th.
Okay.
And we'll have hot chocolate and cookies. And the decorations will be on display until the first week in January. So if you can't make the candlelight tours, which are 5 to 8 on the 17th, if you can't make that, then feel free to stop on over and see the decorations. We also have a corn husk collection that someone literally just donated to us 2 days ago. And it's this incredible collection of little corn husk dolls. They're all on display. If you go to Fort Verde's Facebook page, you can see a little video that I shot the other night of the little corn husk people. They're so amazing.
Okay. Now, would these have been like dolls actually by native folks?
I'm not sure exactly the tradition of them,
but
I do know that the gentleman who donated them, they were part of his grandmother's collection. And so she had been collecting them. So where she got them from, I don't know, but it's
People collect everything.
And if you've never seen this corn husk collection, it's amazing. And then the rooms are all decked out with greenery, with real trees. We cut our own trees, and so you get to smell the pinyon trees. It's fantastic.
Okay, so the corn husk doll, that's on display now?
That's on display along with the trees being all decorated and everything else.
Through holiday. Okay, Will that be through New Year's?
Through January 7th, you can come, and our stairwell has all green bows, and it's all greenery and big red velvet bows. So if people want to come get their holiday portrait, it's always a great backdrop. So, all they have to do is pay the regular park fee, which keeps us doing these events.
Well, work into your holiday schedule a stop at Fort Verde. There's all kinds of great things going on, and especially with a special holiday feel. You mentioned the Facebook page. Is there websites, or where can I go to find a schedule for everything?
Sure. So our website is azstateparks.com, and then you click on Fort Verde. And then you can also call the park if you'd like to at 928-567-3275, and we'll get you more information. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody.
Okay, fascinating. Now, coming up after the holidays, there's always action and activity happening at Fort Verde. In the new year, what might we expect, say, first quarter? The wall, obviously, and we'll talk with Don a bit more about that coming up in a few minutes. But what do we have of in our sights for the new year?
So what we also have is our traditional annual Buffalo Soldier event, and that will be the third Saturday in February. And then for March, we have a number of archaeology awareness activities, including the newly established Mountain Man Rendezvous. And that's typically the third weekend. In conjunction, the town of Camp Verde has their Pecan and Wine Festival.
Right.
And then we do the Mountain Man at Fort Verde. And then the very following week will be when we go into our next event, which is, of course, bringing the Traveling Wall and History of the Soldier. We've moved our History of the Soldier event to coincide, so that way while people are visiting it'll be the same weekend. So April 1st and 2nd, the military timeline History of the Soldier event will be on the Fort Verde grounds, while the Traveling Wall tribute will be on the Town and Camp Verde Community Center field. So that's part of our partnership, is to do that. So that way, after this is the last year of doing the Traveling Wall for this program. So our hope is that all veterans will come over and see the military timeline event and become a part of that too, because we also represent Vietnam as well as all the other eras.
Isn't that interesting? Because we think about Fort Verde specifically and when it was active as a fort and those kinds of things, and you kind of forget that the military service echoes through time, through generations, through decades. And so it's absolutely appropriate that you would be connected with Don and his group and what they do, and veterans of all kinds. It makes perfect sense.
And we encourage all veterans, if anybody would like to get involved, to either camp out with some of the other veterans and reenactors and different folks that do come out for our History of the Soldier event. It is open to all veterans, and we encourage them, especially if you can bring your uniform, or at least just your hat. Right. So we encourage all different veterans to be a part of that as well. I just want to pay tribute and say thank you for their service.
Okay. Well, between now and then, get me a Mountain Man in here too. Can we do that?
I can do that.
Can we do that?
We sure can.
All right. That'll be fun. All right. Well, let's take a break. Again, something exciting that is going to be coming to Camp Verde in conjunction with Fort Verde Historical Park is the replica wall, the Traveling Wall, the Vietnam memorial replica, and we'll talk with Don Clark. Don is a Vietnam-era veteran, and we'll talk about that after we come back. Countywide returns right after this.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Service for over 25 years and continues to serve the communities in northern Arizona. Jackson Hewitt is here to help you file your personal taxes. As laws and situations change, your local Jackson Hewitt Tax Service professional stays updated to serve you. Drop off or make an in-person appointment. In Flagstaff, call 213-8626. That's 213-8626. That's 213-8626.
The award-winning experts at Verde Solaire Services offer the trusted Carrier products that help you customize a solution to fit your budget. Verde Solaire is a family-owned business serving the Verde Valley for 38 years with the Carrier products you can rely on. Carrier AC systems are trusted to bring energy-efficient, quiet, consistent comfort. Call Call 928-567-5315 for a free assessment of your AC and air quality needs. Verde Solaire Services, online at verdesolaire.com, a factory authorized Carrier dealer.
Don't let concerns about today's events derail your long-term financial strategy. Hi, I'm Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Matthias Sandoval, and I'm here to help. We can work together to understand the impact of these events and make sure your goals are top of mind. While you can't control the market volatility, we'll focus on what you can control. We can connect in several virtual ways. Start by giving me a call at 634-1044.
Edward Jones, Making Sense of Investing. Member SIPC.
Welcome back to the program. Again, it is Countywide. I'm Brad Miller, and in our studio today, Sheila Stubler, Park Manager at Fort Verde Historical Park. And a lot of fun things happening there during this holiday season, as well as in the first quarter. You can take a look at the Facebook page and or online. There's a lot of different ways to find information about what is going on, and there's plenty at Fort Verde Historical Park. But coming up in late March, something that's going to be terrific, in conjunction with Fort Verde, the replica wall. Don Clark, help me with that. What is the exact name of the traveling wall, the memorial?
I'm going to defer to Sheila on that.
Okay.
It's AVTT, or American Veteran Traveling Tribute.
Okay. I keep saying the wall.
Yeah.
And I do believe that many people are familiar now. But Don, just as a very quick snapshot, a quick overview, this, simply put, is a nearly full-size, slightly smaller replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall that is in Washington, D.C. Is that right?
That's correct, Brad. The main difference, it has the same impact to most veterans that the wall in Washington does. The difference is the Vietnam Wall in Washington is built in a depression. As the panels get bigger, as the war intensified, and then get smaller as the war wound down, are in essence recessed into the ground.
Yeah.
So we don't have the capability to do that here. The wall, in essence, is the opposite of that.
Right.
It peaks in the center where the casualties were the highest and is lowest on the end. But the emotional impact of seeing 58,178 names is just the same.
Well, when I was a young man, I was sure that I would be to our nation's capital by now, and here I am. I'm still not visited. So when you think about perhaps the biggest benefit of the wall is simply being able to bring at least a big portion, a very good facsimile of that experience to people who might not otherwise be able to ever visit, for either financially or for whatever reasons. Our veterans, our Vietnam era veterans are getting older. And many of them are going to have a harder time kind of getting around, especially interstate travel like that. Now, the wall, I know there are several. We had some wonderful guys like yourself, veterans of that war, who were here about the wall in Payson. So I know there are several different organizations that do it, but the wall itself, the experience itself for attendees is going to be very much the same for any of those, whichever one it is, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And actually, the traveling walls, I think there were originally 3. I think there's only 2 now.
Okay.
And they have been moving around for perhaps 5 or 6 years or so. But it's quite an effort to move it and set it up and provide a long enough time for viewing. So quite frankly, the fact that there was one here in Payson recently is probably unusual for most states. I came most recently from South Carolina, and we had not had a traveling wall for several years in South Carolina.
Yeah, one came to Cottonwood, it maybe is 10 years ago now, or even longer. So it's not an everyday kind of thing. So we would encourage folks to take advantage. Now, this will be set up, and Sheila, not at Fort Verde, but there's a little bit different. And there's a very good and important reason why this wall will be set up different,
Sure.
not at the fort.
Yep. So what it is we have a partnership with the town of Camp Verde. And so on the community center field at 75 East Holloman Street is the physical address of where the wall will be set up. The reason for that is because they have the lighting and the space that's also needed. So that will be That's the main reason that it's going to be on the community center grounds. Also, our annual History of the Soldier event is normally the 1st and the 2nd, and so our timeline event will continue on the 1st and the 2nd in conjunction with the traveling tribute.
Okay. And it's important to note that the wall will be on display for attendees 24 hours a day.
That's correct.
And Don, there's a very important reason for that. Can you kind of talk to that?
Well, certainly the wall is for anyone who did serve there and who lost comrades. It's a very, very emotional experience. There are many veterans who frankly will come late into the evening, early in the morning, by themselves because they want to have a solitary moment.
Sure.
In addition, just as we did in Vietnam, that wall will be guarded by volunteers.
You bet.
24/7. One of the things that's a wonderful coincidence for Verde and for the Verde Valley is that the wall's appearance here coincides with March 29th, which is Vietnam Veterans Day, Vietnam War Veterans Day. Now that's a new nationally recognized day on the calendar. It was only 8 years ago that the nation decided to focus on one specific day of the year. Some of the states, for example, had different days that they recognized. And one of the things that I did when I was in South Carolina was I got South Carolina to synchronize with the National Day, March 29th.
Okay.
The significance of that day is that is the day that the last military unit left Vietnam in 1973. So March 29, 2023 is the 50th anniversary, and to go along with that, the commemoration, which is a committee set up by the Pentagon in 2012, began at the 40th anniversary, and this is the culminating event of a 10-year effort by the commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War to reach out and thank every living veteran, thank the families of veterans, and recognize them perhaps for the first time since they returned.
Can I get you expressed, before we started the show together, we kind of chatted a little bit, and you expressed something very, very well that I'd never considered. And I kind of consider myself a very amateur history buff. World War II, it kind of ended, and it was done for almost everybody at the same time. For Vietnam-era veterans like yourself, it ended 1 year at a time for individuals. There was no great homecoming. There was no kiss in New York City, in Times Square. It was a lot different, your experience.
Almost all the veterans who went to Vietnam went on a specific day of the year, and that day of the year was typically 30 days after they finished training.
Okay.
So, for example, I graduated from Army Flight School on July 18th, 1969. On August 18th, 1969, I landed in Vietnam.
Okay.
On August 18th, 1970, I came home. I came home with the guys that I went with, minus the casualties of that war. And literally on every calendar day of the year, there would be a charter flight landing at Tan Son Nhut Air Base in Vietnam, bringing troops in and taking troops out.
Literally like clockwork.
Literally like clockwork.
That's exactly what it is.
Every day. So you could have 100 veterans in a room, and none of them started their tour on the same day, or came home on the same day. So it was very different. World War II, we moved our troops back from Europe on troop ships. They all arrived together. First of all, they traveled together. Mm-hmm. They had probably 2 weeks to process what they'd been through, and then they all arrived together with fanfare, with families at the docks.
Right.
The charter flight that brought you back from Vietnam was one of the charter commercial airlines, and I landed in San Francisco, where I was given a ticket to Newark, New Jersey. I was traveling by myself at that point. So I got off an airplane that had 180 guys like me coming back on August 18th. But from that point forward, I was traveling by myself. I was in uniform. We didn't have civilian clothes. And in 1970, and I got home 90 days after Kent State. The mood in America was sour, to say the least.
Right.
And so the veterans who returned in this sequential fashion, basically, there was no welcoming.
No homecoming, certainly.
No homecoming. And the war was so controversial at that point that basically for most, they just sort of invisibly disappeared back into civilian life. We have a bit of that problem with today's veterans as well.
Sure.
And I don't want to minimize the hardship that they have and the fact that typically they come back in small groups.
Right.
Now, they tend to deploy as a unit and they come back as a unit, so they can process that collectively.
Right.
But one of the differences is that when you left Vietnam, odds are within the previous 72 hours you were in a combat situation. And then you had, you processed, you did the paperwork of processing out of Vietnam, getting your ticket home.
Right.
In that 1 year tour, the average infantryman saw about 5 times as much combat as a World War II infantryman did, because the war was continuous, where the war in Europe went in fits and starts, sometimes 30 days, 60 days between major engagements, major combat engagements. The Vietnam War, as we all know, was an everyday occurrence. It was guerrilla warfare. There were no days off.
No recovery time. No time to plan. No time to reestablish anything. Emotionally or in terms of logistically.
So in a period of 3 or 4 days, you could be walking back into your living room after being in intense and perhaps bloody combat just a few days before. An
adjustment that many found to be very, very difficult. We have to take just another short break. When we come back, we'll kind of wrap up with some of the information. Again, all of this ahead of some very exciting and interesting things happening through and at Fort Verde Historical Park. There's a lot going on. We'll talk again when Countywide returns right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley for 38 years, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust, designed, engineered, and built in the USA. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates on systems that are quiet and affordable. Verde Solaire is locally owned since 1983 and available for all your heating, air conditioning, and plumbing needs. Call 928-567-5315. Visit them online at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Taxes, taxes, taxes.
It's that time again. This is Lewis with Rice Accounting Jackson Hewitt Tax Service. We don't sell cars, we don't do hair or wait tables. We do taxes. At Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, we talk taxes and we prepare taxes. Open year-round for tax filings. Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, located throughout northern Arizona. For over 20 years, our local preparers have helped neighbors pay their fair share and no more.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service in the Tri-Cities at 772-7872. That's 772-7872.
We welcome you back to the program. I'm Brad Miller. Our guest today, Don Clark, a veteran of the Vietnam era, member of the Federal Advisory Committee to Commemoration. What terrific work they have done, and all of that ahead of the March 29th replica wall, the traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall coming to Camp Verde in March. We're going to talk more about that between now and then. There'll be probably several programs where we'll get to that. In the meantime, Sheila, do we need, I know volunteers are a huge part of what Fort Verde does, not only at holiday time, but around the calendar. If I've got a little extra time, do I need to be an expert in history to come and help out?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just a willingness to help out.
Simple as that. How do I call you?
Yep, they can
online?
either call the park, call Fort Verde at 928-567-3275. And when you call the park, just let them know that you're interested in helping out to volunteer. There's a number of areas that we could use help with.
Okay.
Quite a few positions that we don't know we already need that exist. And so anybody who's interested in helping out, and again, we want to get the word out to all veterans. We've had people from California and from all over Arizona already calling about it. We just want to make sure all of our Vietnam veterans and all veterans are reached. And so if you can help spread the word, that would be huge. Yes.
That's the way to do it. All right. And again, we'll talk more about this coming up in our first quarter ahead of the wall coming to this area. I'm Brad Miller. Our guest today, Sheila Stubler, Don Clark. It's countywide, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.